That's where you make your money.
Yep.
They make things happen every day. They take care of your customers. There's no problems. If there are, those problems get resolved. It's not that big a deal.
Right.
They're your go-getters. They make things happen every day. They're not your home run hitters, but they drive in the runs every single day.
Yeah.
Then you got your bottom 20%. Those are the ones that me and you hire like, man, I can help this kid.
I can fix him.
This kid's going to be amazing. One day, I literally in this leadership course that I was in, said, look, we spend 80% of our time on that bottom 20%.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd spend 80% of our time on this middle 60% and say, hey, y'all are going to learn to hit home runs. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to coach you. I'm going to give you every single thing you need. And the 20% of the time we spend on that bottom 20% is, hey, you got 90 days.
Yeah.
You better get to this level.
Yeah.
Because if you can't drag yourself up from here to here, I don't need you. Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. How much money do you think a top-selling plumber at a good company that markets and advertises and keeps them busy, how much money do you think a top plumber can make per year?
I would say minimum around 150. I think you could go all the way up to 350. I have a guy in Austin that makes about 400,000. He sells $5 million a year. And
I want people to think about this. A plumber, you can become a plumber with a high school diploma, no college, no education, no training. I'm going to take the word training out because there's a lot of training involved. But no college. A guy can walk out of high school and make $400,000 a year. It's possible.
It's very possible. But, plumbing has always been this trade where you have to invest. I mean, we're not going to pay you the top helper pay that you can make to go learn our trade. We're going to pay you a living wage, and then we're going to go teach you a trade that you're going to make a lot of money. So it's a 3-year process. 3 years is the pathway to $150,000, what I like to say.
The training is huge. A lot of, and I say this all the time, and I've talked about this before. Most plumbers, most electricians, most HVAC techs, we get in the trade to become a plumber. Mm-hmm. Once we get that license in our pocket, we stop. We're a plumber.
Yep.
Let me go plumb every day. Let me make a living. This is what I got in the trade to do.
Yep.
But the advanced training is what separates us apart from everybody else.
That's right.
In any one of those trades. I love that.
Leak locating, boiler work, chillers. There's so many avenues you can go. You can go into multifamily. You can go into high-rise industrial, mechanical type work. Literally, I've known plumbers that through their whole career hasn't done anything that I've done. I've got a good friend that's never been in residential service in his life. He's been an industrial commercial plumber his whole career. I mean, when you started out, you was in that side. You was at TD, and went to TD later, but I started out doing a residential remodel. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I went down to Dallas College the other day that they had like this career day. It was great because it was put on by TEEX, STEM oriented, trades oriented, all this, that there were about 1,100 middle school and high school students coming through here. And it was really neat because, it was their introduction to the trades. Yeah.
But, I started out just walking into a company, applying for a job, and I thought, I'm going to be a plumber. When you first got in trade, now you had a little previous introduction to it because of your dad.
Yeah.
But when you got in the trade, did you know that there's service, there's new construction, there's commercial, there's residential, there's union, there's non-union, there's industrial? Did you know all the different paths available?
No, I would tell you that I become a plumber out of necessity. I didn't necessarily want to be a plumber from the get-go. I literally tried to do everything, but usually plumbers' kids.
You bet.
My son's an electrician. He don't want nothing to do with plumbing. It's like a knife in my heart. But I didn't want to be a plumber. I wanted to be anything else but a plumber. But what I learned was that it was in my DNA. I couldn't get away from it.
by the time I was 18, I was 100% bought and sold. And I would say that, the first part of my life, which I'm an older guy, but my first experience at Plumber was $2.10 an hour. I was working 70 hours a week and making $250 a week, so it's always been a grind for me ever since the start. It's been a grind, all the way to this day. I grind the same way that I did in that first couple of years,
I love that. So take us a second and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So I'm Robert Renfro. If you don't know me, and most people do know me in Texas, but I basically I try to bring plumbers together. I've been a plumber all my natural life. You know that. About 44 years now. Ever since I was a little kid, I was cutting nipples for my dad. Couldn't really do anything else. I tried to be a hamburger cook and work at Arby's and that stuff.
Tried a lot of the same things.
You could. It just didn't work for me. Once I got used to driving around, and for me it was service because I got used to driving around and seeing people and talking to people and having these conversations, and I've become addicted to the conversations that I was having with people about their plumbing and their life, and it almost became a life thing for me. That I needed that interaction every day, the different interaction. But I've been around plumbing my whole life. Done a bunch of stuff. Me and you was involved in the whole state deal that happened, and both of us around the same time started our podcast and our studios and stuff, and wanted to bring plumbers together. And I think it's a great mission, to bring plumbers together and keep everybody talking. Because when I was young, plumbers didn't talk to other plumbers. My dad did not talk.
A lot of them still don't.
Yeah, they're like that.
It's sad.
So I remember asking my dad point blank, man, why don't we talk to, that guy over at Wilson's or that guy, and then we could get our prices together and kind of be, in a good spot. But instead we go and fight each other and cut each other to the bone. And I wanted to stop that. I wanted to make it where we all charged a good wage for what we do. And I could call the guy at Milestone or the guy at Bacon or the guy and just have a conversation with that guy, if he gave someone a bid or whatever.
So getting into plumbing was easy for you.
Yeah.
It's what your dad was. Did you ever think about another trade?
I did. The first job I had besides my dad was working at Dallas Plumbing. I'd never done remodel work. I was literally just a faucet changer and whatnot. And I got a job at Dallas Plumbing. I'll never forget it. I wanted to learn new work, and went out there, and oh boy, I forgot his last name. His name Brian, but he would just yell at you all day. You know how the plumbers were.
You bet.
And I was carrying two pieces of cast iron on both shoulders and walking across some ceiling joists and fell through the ceiling and landed on a baby grand piano. And right then I thought, man, this might not
may not be where I want to be.
Because I had people calling me names that wasn't very Christian, But it was, and I nearly at that point said, you know what, I'm going to go to the Army. And then I went to the Army and they wasn't taking nobody because it was not a wartime or nothing. I was like, well, shoot, I got to be a plumber, I guess.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, I got lucky because one of my best friends had told me about his 3 older brothers and his dad that were plumbers. And I called one of them. I quit high school, called one of them. He said, yeah, I can help you get a job. I made a little more than you. I think I started out. He told me to ask for $4.25 an hour. And I think I asked for $4.75 an hour.
Dang. Ballsy.
And this is 1980.
Yeah.
And they hired me. And so I got it. And right then I thought, man, 50 cents an hour. That's an extra $20 a week I just made right there.
Oh yeah.
Just negotiating.
That's big money.
But look, I've always been a hard worker.
Yeah.
So like you, look, I grind from the very beginning. My dad taught me that. And it was really neat because I got in to become a plumber. I had no idea the different career paths available. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But when you got in the trade as an apprentice, did you spend most of the time with your dad? Or once you got out to Dallas Plumbing, you were on your own then?
It really wasn't like that. I mean, back then, it was a different world. We're talking about 1980, 1981, 82.
Yeah. About the same time I started.
Yeah. I walked into the State Board of Plumbing and I said, hey, I need a plumbing license. And they said, well, who told you? I said, well, an inspector caught me putting in a water heater. He told me I needed a plumbing license. So I drove to Austin. I didn't know you were supposed to file no paperwork.
Just go down and get one.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all have me a license.
Yeah,
I'm
I just
a plumber.
walked in and said, hey, I need a plumbing license. They said, are you an apprentice? And I said, what's an apprentice? And they said, well, you got to be an apprentice first. You got $15? And I said, yeah. I gave them $15. I become an apprentice and a journeyman on the same day.
There you go.
So, and they for some reason gave me my test. I was like, I already drove down here. I need to really do. I had my wife with me and my kids. You know? It's like make a day at the beach, and
there you go.
You know? But yeah, it was kind of tripped out the way I got my license. So I never understood the whole apprenticeship thing whenever I was coming up. I just knew that if I wanted something, I had to do plumbing for it. I didn't look at it that way. I never knew I needed an apprentice card till I walked into the state board that day.
And I'm trying to remember, God, I don't even remember what year they started requiring apprentices to register.
It was real close to the end. It was a little bit earlier.
We didn't have to.
Yeah.
I remember they did that later.
That was before the continued education too. So you didn't do that then, you know. Mm-hmm. So
one of my best friends, he actually owns Speaks Plumbing in Garland, Grant. Mm-hmm. His 3 older brothers were all plumbers, and his dad, and I went to work for his dad. And the neat thing about Jerry'd ask you questions every day. You know, what is capillary reaction? Mm-hmm. What is this? What is this? Capillary reaction. What is this? What is this? How far can your trap arm be? How far this? How big is this got to be? He asked you questions every freaking day.
Yeah.
And I loved it because, I mean, some of these kids today, don't get me wrong, they've got to go through the journeyman prep course. They've got to go through the master prep course. We didn't have that. No, we had books,
and we learned the UPC, which was way better code.
Absolutely,
yeah, way better code. So they're learning a different code than we learned. So
I still tell people study the UPC.
It's a great code.
You'll pass your test.
It's a great code, man.
It is.
Everything has a vent. Everything has a drain. Everything has a clean out. It's very simple.
It makes it easy to work on later.
Yeah.
So, what did you learn as an apprentice that made you think, you know what? I don't like this. I want to get really good at this.
I think it was always money for me. I mean, I have 8 kids and now I have 18 grandkids.
Have you figured out what's causing that yet?
Yeah, I stopped letting my friends come over when I'm gone.
There you go.
There
you go.
My wife's going to kill me for saying that.
Yeah,
but,
you're in trouble now.
But I think the interesting situations you find yourself in really was what eventually hooked me to plumbing. And when I say that, being in an apartment complex, standing waist deep in water and diving under the water in the sleet or the snow and everybody needing you to get their water or gas or sewer back working and just being, a regular dude that people actually needed and looked forward to me coming over and looked up to me. Some people would look up to me as being a tradesman, and I think that was kind of the hook for me is that, there's a time when a guy with a very little education could go and make a great living and take care of his family and have some pride. And I thought that was really good. I never knew it would be what it is now, but.
I like the way you put that because I never thought about it that way. But I was at this Dallas College event the other day. One of the ladies was telling me about a kid that wanted to become an HVAC technician. Mm-hmm. She says, why are you wanting to become an HVAC technician? He said, because on the hottest day of the year, I'm going to be everybody's best friend.
Most important person.
Man, isn't that amazing? And I never looked at it that way, never thought about that. But you know what? When it freezes, I remember the last big freeze we had, 2020. We were getting like 50 to 75 calls an hour. And it's like, I can't even answer them anymore. I can't just tell you, look,
yeah,
my plumbers don't want to come to work. Their supervisors told them the roads aren't safe, so they're scared. And he's sitting at home playing with his dogs or something.
Yeah,
and I'm like, man, what a lazy way to be. You've got millions of people that need a plumber, and you're like, hey, I'm too afraid to get out on the road.
Yeah,
and me, I'm like, dude, I'm running as fast as I can. I ran calls to friends and family. It's like, look, I just want to help.
Yeah.
And I've got a manager telling people, look, the roads aren't safe. Y'all stay home. And I'm like, are you freaking joking?
Yeah.
There are people out here that need us today. And you got some people like, yeah, I don't want to work. I don't want to get out on the road.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for people like that.
If you're enjoying the Trade Talks, hit that subscribe or follow button, which helps us produce this awesome blue collar content absolutely free. And now
back to the episode.
What other career could me and you get, where people look up to us for what we've done, like in our career and what we've done, like we're just two normal dudes, I mean, we do shows and stuff, but we do that for a lot of it's just fun because we like to do it, and but we know people look up to us, and we know when we did that the deal with the state,
the rally,
the rally, everybody was looking up to us. We became the plumbers of old in my eyes. The plumber. Used to look up at Vernon and think, oh man, I'd love to be the chief plumbing inspector. I didn't know what it paid them, but I used to.
I love that, and it's funny you mentioned Vernon. I remember when I first became a continuing education instructor. It was like the middle of the year.
Yeah.
It was through the union. They needed another instructor. And they called me and said, "Hey, look, if you'll go down to Austin, they're gonna do a training course for you one-on-one, because that way we can go ahead and get you in, because they do the CE providers about every April, somewhere around in there. And this was like late in the year, November, December. They're trying to get me in to help continue the classes for the rest of the year. So I go down and they're like, okay, go around, you're going to go in this conference room. So I go in the main boardroom, but then back at the back, there's an office with a conference table. And I go in there and sit down, and Vernon walks in, and there's like 2 or 3 books laid down. There's one in front of me, and he comes down the end by me. And he sits down. He said, so you ready? I said, yeah. Are we going to wait on everybody else? He said, no, it's just me and you. I'm like, wait, what? He said, no, it's just me and you.
That's what kind of guy he was.
Me and Vernon sat there for probably, I'm going to say 8 hours, because I think that's what's required.
Yeah.
I don't remember it taking that long, but we went through everything. And man, he was just like, oh my God, this is just the neatest guy. But I'll tell you what, I feel the same way about Lisa. Lisa is like, look, what can I do to help? What needs to be done? And
well, she's usually who you see when you go down. She's usually the person that comes out to greet you.
You bet.
People think that she's not very, accessible, but I've called down there and talked to Lisa several times. I walked in down there and she walked out and talked to me. And
look, I think the Texas State Board is an amazing agency, and people like me and you, people like Mary Conger, that stood up in Austin on the state capitol and said, hey guys, look, here's where we're at. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we need to do. I think makes such a big difference. But let's go back. Once you became a journeyman, how did you realize that you need to separate yourself from everybody else? You need to find something to do better that's going to make people see you, understand you, realize that you're not like everybody else, and eventually make them want to pay you more money.
Well, I want to go back to Vernon real quick, because I have my Vernon story. That day that I went down there and walked in and asked for a journeyman, it was Vernon standing at the counter that dressed me that day. And he said, we had that interaction where he said, you need a journeyman's. Well, I didn't even know I was going to take a plumbing test. I thought I just had to go down there, pay a fine or whatever and get my license. Well, ended up being there all day. I didn't have no money, man. I mean, this is, 1980 something, and I didn't have no money or nothing. I was standing outside at lunch, and Vernon come out, and he was going across to the Winn-Dixie or whatever. I forgot that grocery store that was across the street.
H-E-B, baby.
H-E-B or something.
H-E-B, don't you even.
And he goes, boy, did you bring you some food? And I said, no, sir, I didn't. I didn't know I was going to be here this long. I didn't know I had to do all this. And he said, well, come on, I'm going to buy you some chicken or something. But really, that's the key to this. And if I had to say, it doesn't fulfill me to go and do amazing things in the plumbing trade. It fulfills me to bring people along with me and bring them up and build them up. I can usually go to a supply house and I know just about everybody that walks in that supply house, or have some way that I touched them in a way like, the master plumber at their company, was my apprentice.
I get that.
And it happens all the time now, which back then it was very, but now, it's like all the time people call me and say, hey man, you made my career, or you did. And I think that's really what it's turned away from the money for me. I mean, I could give two craps about the money. I don't really have to work. I think that about me. I just enjoy working. And, but now it's for the pride and the being able to talk to people, be able to bring people together. The rally really did that for me. You know, it made me where I wanted to bring people together. I realized that our strength is in numbers, nothing else. When I can call you and you can call your herd and I can call my herd and we can come together and we can take up for any plumber that's in distress or need. That's really my end goal now. You know, that's what I want to do.
That's a neat deal.
Think of the power that's in that, Roger. Just think of a guy in Maine, you know, if the cities, if they're piling down on their plumbing license law, what if it wasn't just Texas? What if we could do a national call to arms, you know?
I think there ought to be a national license. I think there ought to be an MEP, national MEP. You know, I'm a certified HVAC technician.
Me too.
I'm a master plumber. Don't ever want to be an electrical anything. No. Man, who would be? Yeah, never mind. I don't even know.
You know, I got that pain of my son doing it.
You got that thorn right there in your side. I get it. And look, there's a lot of people say, I don't want the federal government involved in my license. Well, they already are.
Oh, yeah.
If there's an agency, they already are. But my thing is, look, if there was a national license that we could take, I understand, look, in New York, I got to bury the water line deeper. Is what it is. You tell me how deep to bury it, I'll bury it. Ain't got no problem with that. You know, when Louisiana has a hurricane or something, and they need 1,000 plumbers to help restore water service. Now, luckily, thanks to the Texas State Board, my license is good there. We have reciprocity.
Yep.
But imagine if there's 1,000 plumbers in California out of work, and they can come down to New Orleans and get a job and get paid. And hey, your license is good because you have a national certification. I think there should be a national certification for MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. It's wire. You pull it, energy runs through it. I don't care if you're in Dallas or New York. Electricity is electricity. Water is water. Gas is gas. And I understand some plumbers are afraid to run gas because it's not part of their license. In Texas, man, we grew up with it. I love the idea of a certification where we could all do, if they needed help in St. Louis tomorrow and there's 500 plumbers unemployed in Texas, hey guys, let's get in a big truck and go to St. Louis and we can help our brothers out. Okay, so let's go back to becoming a great plumber. You've set yourself apart at pretty much every company you've been at, whether it's through training, whether it's through education, whether it's through just what you bring to other plumbers. When did you realize, or what made you realize, what makes you develop that mindset of, look, I want to be good. I want to separate myself. I want to do something different. I want to learn something different. Whatever it is, do you remember what just made you think, look, I want to be better. I want to do something different?
I remember the exact moment when I went to work at Levy & Son. I got my journeyman's, went to work at Levy & Son. And if you've heard me talk about plumbers, I talk about David Bridgewater a lot. That works with, I think he's over at
Baker Brothers.
You
bet.
But David Bridgewater is just an amazing guy. Well, when I met David Bridgewater, he was real nice to me. He took me in. He showed me things I didn't know. Commercial. He started showing me commercial, and you know, we'd go up to Keller's and drink beer at night. And I really looked up to the guy. You know, he had like 6 or 7 kids. He was kind of in the same boat I was, you know, and he had to work.
So now I know why you have 8 kids. You're just trying to stay ahead of David.
Well, I have 8 kids because the fair is slow every year, and I had a kid about 9 months after that, you know, but all my kids are right around the same birthday.
There you go.
But David Bridgewater was big because I looked up to him so much. Still to this day, I say it's the best plumber I know. Whether he is or not, I don't know. I just know that in my mind, if I think of the best plumber I know, I think of David Bridgewater, you know. And
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I love that.
It just has a place in my head that'll never go away. It probably if anything happened to him, it'd probably be the one that hurt me the most if something happened to David Bridgewater, you know. And I don't even know if he knows I feel that way about him. I think he does, but you know, he literally made me to where I wanted to be a great plumber. He made me change from wanting to earn a living to seeing it as a career and something that I could make a lot of money at and that I could individualize. And I think that's where we miss a lot, is individualizing yourself. I individualized myself. You know, I'm a great sales guy. I love to teach sales training. I love to work around that model. My deal is not, I want to, you know, go in and know every nut and turn in plumbing. I just want to mentor people and how they survive and how they make a living and stuff like that.
You know, and that's really interesting because I grew up wanting to be a great plumber. I think I learned from, I'm like you.
Austin Speak is probably one of the best plumbers I've ever known.
Right.
His brother Lynn, a very good plumber. And to get to work around them and understand, look, you always do it right.
Yep.
Always. And Austin is one of these guys, man, you could be, and I've seen it, under a house working in a tunnel, and he'd go unplug the electrical cord. And you're like, hey, I ain't got no lights down here. He's like, man, I don't know what's wrong. And he'd wait for you to climb out, and he'd climb in and say, hey, go plug the cord in. I'm going to finish it. Yeah. And it's like, dude, let me do my job. He's like, no, I want to do it. But that's the way he was. He wanted to be the hands-on guy.
I would have got along with that guy.
You bet. No, I love him to death. And where I'm going with this is I had Josh Campbell, Rescue Air, in here a couple of weeks ago, my partner. I wanted to be a great plumber. I wanted to understand plumbing. That's why I'm a master med gas, master water supply protection specialist, master residential fire protection system. I wanted to be a great plumber. I wanted to understand all about plumbing. I've done commercial and residential and service and new construction, industrial, union, non-union. I can talk to anybody about any of it. And it's an intelligent conversation because I understand it.
Right.
Josh wanted to be a great businessman. I want to understand how businesses run, how they make money, the right way to do this, the right way to do this. You wanted to understand the sales end of it, the customer service end of it. How do I grow relations with customers? There's so many different aspects of plumbing. You don't just have to be a plumber. You can be a CAD operator. You can be a computer guy. You can be a salesperson. You can do a million things. But to see that you can pick something different and specialize at it and get really good. I mean, Josh runs a successful company. You're known for sales training and sales and communications and relationships and stuff like that. I don't know that I'm known for anything, but God, I always wanted to be a great plumber.
You are a great plumber. I mean, you're never going to let something be done halfway. So, I mean, every one of us have different attributes, and we draw from each other. You know, whenever I need advice, I call you. If you need advice, you call me. We've always been that way. And you know, you used to be a union plumber, and I wasn't a union plumber, and we've had great conversations. We were pretty much polar opposites from the start, you know, but we've always had a pretty good relationship. But yeah, I think for me it was people development become my sole focus, because I really think it happened when I was, you know, running my own company and trying to bring people in, and I couldn't get people to work for me. And I realized that, and I think I even mentioned this to you a long time ago. I said, I think the person that can hire the employees is the one that's going to be successful, not the person that can do the best plumbing, but the person who can draw the best talent, right? So when you can draw in the best talent, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, because you're drawing in people smarter than you or as smart as you know. And I think that's where I really do set myself aside, is there's not a plumber that I don't take the time to talk to. If you call me, I'm going to talk to you.
Oh yeah. And
if I like you, don't like you, whatever, we're going to have a conversation.
You bet.
If you're stuck, I'm going to help you get unstuck. And I think that goes across the plumbing trade now, you know, especially with the Facebook groups and stuff, that now you can call so many people, you know, to help you, that you could literally start out in this trade, and with the amount of help and the amount of outreach, literally you can go to a house now, look at a lavatory faucet, put a picture on there, and before you get to your truck, have someone tell you, oh, that's a Speakman, you know, X4265
1832. Yeah, you get the parts here.
We didn't have that when we was coming up. You know, we was in there trying to figure that crap out, and you know. But now it's not like that. You can ask questions, you can YouTube stuff, you know. Tankless they're not. I look at them and it looks like Chinese, but these young kids, they go in there, man, and they just take them all apart, put them all together. And
you know, that's funny because, you know, Renai's one of my sponsors. And I've told them, look, if you can get plumbers where they're not afraid of them. Old school plumbers. And I'm pointing at me too, because I remember when they first came out, you'd walk in the house, people were like, hey, I want that new tankless water. He's like, oh, no, you don't.
Scared to death.
You bet, because I'm scared of it. I can't sell it to you because I'm afraid of it. And then I started studying it and started learning it. And it's like, man, there's benefits to having this. Now, these young kids, they're grown up learning about it. So they're like, okay, it's just a water heater. What's the big deal? And it's like, wait, that water heater saves you money and does this and this and this. So I see the benefits of it.
You said something about owning your own business, and you've helped companies grow.
Yep.
If there was anybody listening right now that said, look, I'm thinking about owning my own business, I'm thinking about opening my own business, what are the first three things you'd tell them?
I think the first one would be true to yourself. Like don't lie to yourself. Be who you are. If you don't have no credit, you don't have no money, be truthful with yourself and get some advice from people who are successful. A lot of people will tell you not to open your own business at this time. They're probably right. If they're telling you that you're missing something, you need to go back to the drawing board. So first I would say, do your research and look up to your mentors and take their advice. Second, I would probably say, don't get too much debt too fast.
It can happen.
It happens real quick because the second you say I'm X, Y, and Z plumbing company, the postcard mania people are calling you, and this person's calling you, and everybody's in your pocket trying to get in your pocket. And man, if you can't figure out how to do some grassroots stuff right there at the start,
you bet.
You're really in trouble, because if you go through that first year and you're $600,000 or $700,000 in debt, you're probably not going to make it. Just the way it is.
No, I agree.
Don't beat your head into the wall. It just, you made a mistake. Third, I would say, position yourself not to work yourself to death, because if you don't, you can work yourself into a grave in 20 years real easily. Answering the phone 24/7 and all the stress and Mrs. Johnson's water and Tom Jones's gas, and it all gets in your head. And if you can't figure out a way to get right in your head to run that business, you have a big, major problem. And the bigger the business gets, the worse that problem will get. It won't get better.
Yeah. If you don't start out with a solution, you've got problems to begin with. So when did you realize it was time for you to open your own business? What clicked and made you think, you know what?
It was a necessity when I opened my own business, because I just could not make enough money for the amount of problems I had to deal with. In other words, I had so many kids and so much debt that I couldn't make it on $10 an hour. I had to make my own money, and I had to be the master of my own destiny. And that's what I did. Is I understood early in that life that I had to go make it happen, not wait for it to happen, not get investors, not, all this and that and other. I had to stand at Lowe's at 3:00 in the afternoon with my business cards. I had to stand in the plumbing aisle at Lowe's, or park in the parking lot and hope somebody would come talk to me, or go print off 1,000 flyers and take my helper down the street and hand that stuff out. And until you grinded like that and you really felt, hey man, I ain't gonna be able to pay my rent, my electric's getting turned off, my water's getting turned off. I have this conversation with Brad. I work for Bacon. That's one of the reasons I like Brad so much, is he started that way. He didn't start, with a silver spoon in his mouth. He started pretty much the way I started, whatever bill he had was due, and he had to go make it happen. And people that start that way, what you do is you learn that there's a big difference between needing something to happen and making something happen. And once you learn how to make stuff happen, you can change your life, your whole life. The problem is that your stress gets really out of control.
And I love that, because to be honest, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
I talk about this all the time, because that is what I learned that separated me. I grew up open shop, worked 17 years, got in the union in 97, spent another, 20 something years in there. Somewhere along that way in the union, I remember walking into Speaks Plumbing one day, and Austin was in there, and he looked at me and said, "So little brother, you got your master license yet?" I said, "No." He said, "You're the only one?" Meaning him and his other 3 brothers and dad. And I'm the only one that didn't. And I mean, I looked at them like brothers.
Yep.
So I was like, man, I got to go get my master now. So, and I never really thought about it. So went and got my master's, and I was in the union. So I remember going, and I'd already had my med gas. So I thought, well, now I need to go back and get my master med gas. And then it was, well, now I want the WSPS. Now I want the residential fire protection system. And so I did, but it all became a mindset.
I realized, look, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I love that you say, look, I looked at it and said, look, I'm the master of my own destiny. It's me.
That's it.
So many people need to learn that.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep me from becoming a master plumber. You can't keep me from becoming the owner of my own business. You can't keep me from becoming a $100 million a year business. Only I can.
Oh, and my dad made me realize that I was the most worthless piece of crap on the face of this planet. You know, I mean, he called me names probably from the time I was 6 till, you know, I was in my 20s. Still to this day, probably still calls me names. But the way he talked to me, I hated it. I hated him for it at the time. You know, I never wanted to be that dude, man. I could never see myself talking to another man that way. And something just ignited in me where I wanted to help people, not for any monetary gain. I just want to help dudes. If they want to be a plumber, I want to help them do whatever they have to do. You know, I don't think that's wrong. I got this sense of people helped me, and I think I need to give back. I'll probably stay in the trades till I die. I'm never going to retire. My wife don't like me that much, you know, like
They can't stay home.
yeah, I can't stay home. So like I say, I'm going to make it my mission for the rest of my life to help people, you know.
What was the hardest thing about starting your business?
Really wasn't hard at the time. I mean, you're talking about a time, you know, the most you'd pay is, you know, $100 a week for your Grove Shopper ad, you know, and there'd be 300 plumbing companies in there, you know, with unstopping sewer lines for $19, you know, because everybody was battling so hard. You know, internet wasn't really out. It was starting to come out, but it wasn't a big thing yet. And, you know, just you're talking about the start of cell phones and stuff like that, which we were in a different age, you know.
You bet.
Completely different age. Plumbing ain't even done anywhere. We're still talking about a time when you made your own supply lines, flared everything, made your own gas lines, you know, soldered every P-trap in, had to get the chrome off of it and solder it into lead arm or copper. That's total different time, you know, total different workload. And not to take anything off these guys these days, but
it's just different tools, different materials.
You could learn all that stuff pretty easily. Just, you don't need to, you know, like there's no reason to learn how to make a flare supply line anymore. But
we still know how.
Yeah, we know how. It probably leaked the first couple of times after 30 years.
I don't think mine would, brother. I still remember all the steps.
Yeah, no, you got to ream it, man. People
Absolutely. That's your big
people
deal.
Don't ever ream it.
I wasn't going to give away the trick.
No, they need to know that if you're going to do it. But,
absolutely.
On one hand, I say, well, you know, I don't like where it's going. And then on one hand, I say, man, I really like where it's going. Because we was so much like in the dinosaur ages back then. I mean, we're still pouring lead and oakum, you know, and, you know, had our lead smelter.
How long has it been since you've poured a lead and oakum joint?
Actually, it hasn't been that long. I still to this day like to pour lead.
I did one the other day for a video, and it was like, I had so many people like, dude.
Yeah, like, what'd you do?
This is so old school. It's like, who you looking at, man? Come on.
I did a shower drain not too long ago, probably 6 or 7 months ago, and I told my helper, I said, go out there and get my caulking iron. And
he's like, what's the caulking
iron? Get my ladle, and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? And I was oh, let me go get this stuff.
You bet. I like that.
And I don't even know if you can buy lead by the pound anymore.
You can.
Can you?
You can buy lead. You can buy oakum. You can buy pots. You can buy.
Yeah.
I've bought everything. I've probably got more lead and oakum tools now than I did have whenever I was in the trade.
I've always liked to do shower drains with lead and oakum. I don't know why. I just think it's a better seal and something that moves up and down. You know, I think it's a better deal. But a lot of people don't like that.
You say starting your own business wasn't hard. Growing it wasn't hard.
Well, I ain't saying it wasn't hard. It was tough, but it was a time when I was already eating beans and cornbread. I couldn't get much broker, you know, so it wasn't a hard decision. Right now it'd be a hard decision because I'd be giving up a lot of stuff. You know, I got a high paying career. That'd be a really hard decision. But back then it wasn't a hard decision. It was, you know, one week we'd have beans and cornbread and next week we'd have cornbread and beans.
Yeah.
Not much you can lose.
It changes up.
Yeah.
Which goes on the left, which goes on the right. And me, when I started mine, I walked out of a 6-figure job, gave them back the keys to the truck, the computers, the phones, everything. I remember I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I'm done here.
Yeah.
They weren't happy with me. I wasn't happy with them. I was frustrated. I had to listen to the owner talk about all the things they were going to do. And it came down to they're going to BS people into believing they're doing things right. And I'm like, I don't want to be part of this. And I did. I walked out. And this is a union commercial
company that wanted to get into residential service. And it's like, we're just going to make stuff up. And I'm like, that's not where I want to be. I walked out, didn't know if I was going to go to work at another union contractor or what. And then I remember my phone rang Monday morning. It was a customer. I'd already had my name, already had my insurance. I knew one day I wanted to open my own company. So I had all my ducks in line. And I got a call that Monday morning and says, look, I know you're busy. I know you got a job. Our house was hit with lightning. We've got a hole in our gas line. And of course, didn't have my CSST cert. So I had to go down and get it to buy the fittings, to come back to fix it and repair it and do all this. But got it done, got the gas back on. And I decided right then, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I pretty much stayed busy since then. I'd go around to real estate companies and walk in and say, I'd like to talk to you about sewer water tests, why you should be doing them, how you should be doing them, yada, yada, yada.
And you're talking about a different time than I'm talking about, because I started and not just out of necessity. I started my business a lot earlier than you did.
Oh, yeah.
Early.
Oh, many years.
88, 89, yeah. Something like that. And at the time, TD had just sold
a part of.
They sold Tempo off, which was the residential side of TD. Well, where I found myself is I had a whole bunch of residential customers at TD that we didn't service anymore. So it was a pretty good launching block for my company. Well, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I just know that there was nobody servicing those customers. And I was literally doing it after hours. I'd work 90 hours a week. Then I'd go.
I used to do the same thing.
Unstop drains and, take care of Mrs. Johnson and put in sewer lines on the weekend. And, the downside, I probably didn't really know my kids, the younger kids, my oldest kids now, I didn't really know them. I spent maybe 2 or 3 hours a week with them, at the most. I worked Saturday and Sunday. We didn't have no money, we was broke. We was in debt. We was having to move all the time because we didn't have the money to pay $300 in rent. I mean, that was crazy talk,
You bet.
You know what I'm talking about, the time I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, I remember struggling. I do.
Yeah, it's struggle.
I tell people, I used to be really good at math in my head, but I remember walking through the grocery store every time my wife would pick up a pack of meat. I'd look at it, it's like, okay, $3. Now we're up to 43. Okay, toilet tissue. Now we're up to 47. And it was like, all of a sudden we'd be walking through and be like, okay, we got to
settle down.
and man, I was good about thinking, okay, we got tax on top of that. I got $83 in the account. We're at about 80. We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
If it reached 81, you're like, oh my God, I got way too close this time.
Yes. I remember those times.
Yeah, and it was a struggle.
But people see us now and they think, oh man, you guys doing real good, or y'all ain't.
Man. The good thing is now when I go to the grocery store, I don't look at numbers. How many of those do I want? Just get them. Let's go.
I still do, because I have this weird thing. My mother was one of those depression ladies, you know.
Bet.
Everything
always look at everything.
I
think good though.
I think there's pickles in her house from 1971 still jarred and canned in there.
I get that. But, I've had that conversation in my mastermind group.
My mom would sit in the damn Kroger's and argue over 2 or 3 cents off of something and I just kind of picked that up from her, like I'm always trying to figure out how to get something cheaper.
No, I get it. I love that.
Yeah.
You've worked at some of the biggest plumbing companies in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you talked about Milestone a while ago. I remember sitting down in a pizza place one day, and there's a TV back this way. And my wife at the time, there's a TV back this way. And we sat here at probably 5 or 6 o'clock, ordered a pizza. And I must have seen, between the two of us, a dozen Milestone or Baker Brothers commercials.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's another one. There's another one.
And I talk about Brad a lot. I actually look up to Brad. Even though he's younger than me, I still look up to him because he's a pretty smart dude, And he has this saying, and I don't know how it exactly goes, but I think it's probably the most impactful thing he says is that, if you're somebody in my life that's either stagnant or in my way, I'm going to go around your,
you bet.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that mindset of always improving, always making yourself better. And I'll tell you, for me, that guy, he just cares about his plumbers a lot. He if you go into a meeting and try to take money from his plumbers, he's going to throw a fit. And I want to be like that. I want to be a guy who helps people to that degree, But learning, if you're stagnant, you're in my way. I think that's a very impactful statement.
I've had Tommy Mello in here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tommy Mello is doing $200 million a year in garage doors.
Mm-hmm.
His goal is to grow to $1 billion a year garage door company. Now, I don't know a plumbing company doing $1 billion a year. I know some that are $1 billion a year companies that are doing big commercial jobs nationwide. They're part of a bigger organization.
Yeah.
And he's taken on that mindset. Look, I can be that big. It's a mindset. But the neat thing is, it's all about culture.
Yeah.
How do if I hire Rob today to be a garage door guy, I'm going to say, Rob, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? I don't want to get to where I make $300,000 a year. I want to get to where I can build a house. I want to take care of my wife and my 8 children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's how we do it. For you to make that kind of money, here's what you got to do. And here's what it looks like. Here's the relationships you need to build. Here's the teams you need to build. You need to make money on the people working for you because you've trained them to do things right and yada, yada, yada. And it's so neat to listen to him and watch his mind run and think, wow, how do I convert that over and do things like that? But it's about culture. It's about taking care of the people that work for you.
Well, and you said the key is teams.
You bet.
So when you realize you can't do it by yourself.
You bet.
You got to put people and pieces into place to make things happen at all times. And when one of those pieces or people gets stagnant, you have to move them to the side, put another person or people in place. You know what I'm saying?
You bet.
And when you learn that, so what hurt me in my business is that I had so much, I can fix that guy, and I think you have that too. I can fix that guy.
We spend so much time on the bottom 20% because if I can just get them up to here, to this middle 60%.
And I would say that's why I never got real big, is because of that attitude of well, I can fix that guy, and then find out he screwed me out of, $10,000 or.
I took a great leadership course through one of the best practice groups. You've got your top 20%.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do anything with. They're going to do what they do. They're magic. You got your middle 60%. Those are the ones that's where you make your money.
Yep.
They make things happen every day. They take care of your customers. There's no problems. If there are, those problems get resolved. It's not that big a deal.
Right.
They're your go-getters. They make things happen every day. They're not your home run hitters, but they drive in the runs every single day.
Yeah.
Then you got your bottom 20%. Those are the ones that me and you hire, like, man, I can help this kid.
I can fix him.
This kid's going to be amazing. One day, I literally, in this leadership course that I was in, said, look, we spent 80% of our time on that bottom 20%.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd spend 80% of our time on this middle 60% and say, hey, y'all are going to learn to hit home runs. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to coach you. I'm going to give you every single thing you need. And the 20% of the time we spend on that bottom 20% is, hey, you got 90 days.
Yeah.
You better get to this level.
Yeah.
Because if you can't drag yourself up from here to here, I don't need you.
That's right.
People like me and you, look, I care about every one of them. And maybe me caring about them and saying, look, plumbing ain't for you.
Yeah, it might not be.
You need to go flip burgers at McDonald's because you'll get a check every single week.
If you feel better about sitting in your truck and being on the phone than getting Mrs. Johnson's damn water
Become an
turned
Uber
on,
driver.
Become an Uber driver.
You bet.
Don't do plumbing.
You bet. Get your tail out of here.
Because me and you spent years of not going to that dance recital, of not going to that baseball game, because we had to get Mrs. Johnson's water on, and we invested pieces of our. I'm not talking about time. I'm talking about
blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah,
you bet.
Pieces of our soul into this job. You know, like when we went down and helped with the plumbing license law and everything, we were invested our soul into that. Like we laid it all on the line. We could have all failed and lost everything from that shit. When you come down to it, if you can't find people that are as passionate about it as you are, that wants to learn it like you do, and you can't influence them to be as passionate as you and care about it like you do, move them on. Just let them DoorDash pays pretty good. You know,
bet. Hey, I know Uber drivers make good money.
Yeah.
Have fun.
And you can stay on
your
phone.
Car, stay on your phone, play.
Yeah, exactly.
So companies these days, are enough companies using that today to grow their businesses? Join the Trade Talks. Hit that subscribe or follow button, which helps us produce this awesome blue-collar content absolutely free. And now, back to the episode.
No, I don't think so. I have this thing, and I tell everybody this, and I'm really passionate about it, is you cannot buy every lead. You can't do it. There's an end to that.
You shouldn't want to.
You shouldn't want to.
God, I mean, that is the talk about old school.
Yeah.
Dude.
You're over here, and I can't tell you how many companies went out of business because their Yellow Page ad was $6,000 a month. You know,
well, Western Welding Academy got their cat right there, got their hat right there. Tyler, love you, brother. He brings in 20 new welding students a week.
Yeah.
In an academy. It's a 6 months program. I said, what's it cost you for your student? He said, nothing. So what do you mean nothing? He said, it's all through social media. They see what we do. They want to become it.
Yeah.
They come in. Imagine a plumbing company, an electrical company, an HVAC company that set up that way and said, look, we don't pay for customers.
Yep.
They find us. They
That's
come to
great.
us. That's what it Julie and I used to have this conversation. If I could walk into Milestone and say, Gus, give me half your budget. I'm not going to spend it all. I'm going to give half of it back to your employees, but I'm going to teach them to use social media. I'm going to teach them to make your phone ring like it's never rang before. Why don't you do that? Well, they won't listen to me. No. I don't think that can happen.
No, because marketing people
have convinced their mindset.
They throw money at a problem, right? Bet. And I get it. Everybody's got to have a marketing spend and all that. But man, if you can just teach your plumbers that when they go on standby to go to Home Depot and hand people their card and shake their hand, and, you know, I call it kissing babies, but
you bet.
I always made my plumbers kiss babies. If I wouldn't send you home if you went on standby.
And I know you didn't make them. You convinced them, look, you want to bring home that check?
That's right.
Here's how you do it.
Yeah, you got to kiss those babies.
You bet.
You know, and shake those hands and talk to people. And there's so much that we don't do now that we used to do when it comes to stuff like that. You know, like if you had a parade back in 1980, you'd have 2 or 3 different plumbing companies having trailers in there, you know.
Throwing candy out and cards
candy and cards. Community outreach, you know. And if you want to grow your business, you're going to have to figure that stuff out, because at the end of the day, you're going to make it about 10 years and you're going to stop being able to buy leads as easily, because you burn the
more
market.
And more expensive every year.
You burn the market. You know, once they see XYZ come across their news every morning for 20 years,
they get tired. They ignore it.
They start ignoring it.
You bet.
So I think that's one of the biggest plagues is 2 things a company should do and be very fluent in. They should be in with Dallas community colleges in the training programs. Mary Conger's doing a training over there.
I was over there with her 2 days ago.
Yeah, she's going to get me some stuff I'm going to put out on my pages. But Mary Conger, you know, she does a lot of outreach to these kids and teaches them, and she doesn't have to do that. She enjoys doing it. You know, she does I think she does work there, but she ain't doing it for the money is all I'm saying, you know.
No, and she's good, and she's moved up. They've got her now teaching a mechanical engineering class. She's not teaching the plumbers. Jackie is. Hung out with them the other day. Got to meet about 1,000 students coming through, 8th grade to 12th grade. A lot of them don't know what they want to do, so I got to talk to them about plumbing. Mary and Jackie about plumbing. Another guy talking to them about electrical and stuff like that. So it's so good, and we need to be reaching out to letting these younger kids know, look, what your parents and counselors and principals have told you, if you don't go to college, you'll never amount to anything. That's not necessarily true anymore.
As company owners and business leaders, we should be going to those programs and saying, hey, we got guaranteed job placement. If we're doing that outreach and we're going and we're giving guaranteed job placement to these kids, interviewing them before they graduate, pulling them out of that, think of what that's going to do for your recruiting budget. I mean, you're paying recruiters to go, if you just build some programs that'll teach and mentor and train.
Awareness.
Yeah. I mean, you're saving so much money that way, you know.
You're building communities, and it's not just plumbing communities. You're building them in other trades, but plumbing is your biggest community.
Yes.
Service Plumbers of America, service plumbers of each and every state, which is great. Plumbers in Maine can get in that group and say, hey guys, here's who's hiring. Here's what we need. Here's what we're looking for, different things like that. What made you want to build communities like that?
Just outreach. I mean, like the very things we're talking about, the fact that a 18-year-old kid doesn't know that he doesn't have to spend $300,000 to learn how to do something that everyone does, you know, like they come out of school with $300,000 in debt, $200,000 in debt, and can't find a job. That's ludicrous to me. That's insane, you know, and to show everybody that that there's pride in this trade, you know.
Oh,
without us,
tons.
you couldn't make it without us. You know what I'm saying? Like the plumber can save the nation and the plumber can ruin the nation in the same token, you know.
Sean Strong says we wear capes every day, just nobody sees them.
They don't see them. You know?
I love that.
Yeah.
You've also got some electrical and HVAC type stuff too, trying to help those communities. And that's all on Facebook, so it's easy for anybody to find.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. What would you recommend to people about getting into those groups?
It's easy. Just go to Facebook and search Service Plumbers of and your state name. It's really simple. The ideal behind it is I need people in each state to run those groups. I can't run all those groups.
You don't want to run 51 pages just for plumbers?
I've got 160 Facebook pages. I don't even remember most of them, but
I believe that.
The plumbing ones I remember. I need in each state someone to just get a hold of me. They can call me. They can reach out to me. They can, message you and you can get them in touch with me. And them to kind of take on that role as the moderator of that state and understand that I'm going to have very limited interaction with it. But if you ever need us, we're going to draw in every state around there to march, and help you.
No, that's cool. I like that. All right, so let's go back. You've been in the trades 40 years now. Go back to the very first day that you walked out of your house, not to go to work with your dad, but you've got a job now.
Okay.
If you could go back to that very first day and talk to little Robert, based on what I know now, what would you tell Robert 40 years ago?
I think the most important thing I'd tell myself is that, and I know this is going to sound weird, within 100 years of today, everybody you know will be dead. What are you going to do? That's what I'd tell myself. I want to live every day knowing that within 100 years, everybody I know will be dead. And I want to make a mark on this son of a bitch. That's what I want to do.
Do you wish you'd have done things different?
Nope.
Well, hold on. You said a while ago, look, my older kids, I didn't spend time with them, don't know them as well. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Do you ever look back and think, I wish either I'd have had a better job or I'd have done things different. I'd have put myself in a better position where I could spend time with, all 8 kids or anything like that. Do you ever look back and think, I wish I'd have done something different?
The alternative was unspeakable. The alternative was not having food or shelter or education or clothes so I've never punished myself for that because the alternative was unspeakable. I would rather my kids say my dad wasn't there than to say my dad couldn't put clothes on my back.
Right. No, I get that. Like that.
So I wouldn't take anything back. I lived my life. I had a hard life. I don't try to discount that. I went through cancer and I wouldn't trade 1 second of it. I wouldn't make 1 second of it easier because what did I do with my 100 years? It goes back to what I was saying, that's what I'm here for. If I can go help another plumber, I won't go deer hunting. I won't go dove hunting. Whatever I have to do to help that guy, I'm going to help him. I'm going to help him make it. That's just how I feel.
Rob, brother, this has been great.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Congratulations on the new studio, brother.
Thanks. It's been fun.
It's great.